Hey everyone, this is Dr. Casey Johnson. Thank you so much for taking time to listen to the Unlock Wellness podcast. I know you're going to love today's episode with Claudia Ivonne. Claudia is doing some amazing work, so I'm excited to have her on to share a story with you guys. If you've been loving the Unlock Wellness podcast, be sure to jump onto iTunes, subscribe, and write a review. It really helps me out a lot, and I really appreciate all of the feedback and support. Also, be sure to follow me on social media to keep up with the latest podcast episodes. The best way to connect with me is on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. My username across the board is at Dr. Casey Johnson. That's DrKaseyJohnsson. You can also check out my website at drcaseyjohnson.com. It has all of the past podcast episodes and more information about each guest under the Listen tab. While you're on my site, be sure to check out the Shop tab where you can check out my first book of my Healthy Children's Book series. Thank you again for listening. I hope this episode leaves you feeling inspired to start making positive changes to your health. Now it's time for today's episode. I hope you love my conversation with Claudia Ivonne. Welcome to the Unlock Wellness podcast. I'm Dr. Casey and excited for today's guest. I'm here with Claudia Ivonne. And Claudia is an artist, environmentalist, garden expert, and vegan bikini competitor. And her passion for health and wellness came after having her son, and her life hasn't looked the same since. But I'm excited for Claudia just to dive into her story and just all of the amazing work that she's doing. So Claudia, thank you so much for taking time to come on. I'm excited to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here with you. You did an awesome job with hubby's interview. I'm really excited for this.
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you. And for you guys listening, she is married to David Anthony, which is AKA Tactical Vegan, who was a past podcast guest and is amazing. So be sure to go check out his episode as well, episode 199. So be sure to go back and check that out as well. But no, he was bragging on all of the incredible work that you're doing, Claudia. So can't wait to dive into it.
Thank you.
So why don't we just start with your backstory? That way people can get to know you a little bit more. So first off, where you're from and what your own health and wellness journey has looked like for you. I mean, were you always into health and wellness just growing up as a kid?
I was. Actually, I'm from Vegas. I grew up in Vegas, and I've always been kind of like a healthy food person. I first was introduced to like the whole plant-based diet when I came back from France and was told my mom had cancer, and my parents were looking for like a holistic approach in addition to the chemotherapy. And a family friend of ours who is a holistic doctor came to the family, and pretty much he suggested a plant-based lifestyle. And so to support her, we all decided to do this. I want to say I was maybe about 13, 14, 15, around that age range. And so she actually healed herself. She was, cancer-free, all of that great stuff. And
That's awesome.
My family kind of went back, but I stayed with the vegetarian veganism. I didn't really realize it was vegan at that point. I just knew I didn't eat that stuff, And so that's how I started. And then I met hubby. So I was vegan when I met him. And then throughout our relationship, I slowly stopped being vegan. And then recently when he decided to go vegan, I was like, you know what, I'll just do it with you. Why not? I've done it before. And my intention was just to do it for 30 days, 60 days. And I just stuck with it. It felt like coming back home. It felt like, when you leave your childhood home and you come back and it just feels comfortable. It felt right. And this time I had more reasons behind it as opposed to just the health,
Right. So he decided he wanted to do it. You're like, done this before. It's going to be great. And that's awesome.
Yeah, it was. So I was like, I'll support you. I'll do it with you. Why not? And yeah, I've been doing it since then. So
was that before or after you guys had your son?
This was after we had our son. Our son was really young. I want to say he was about a year and a half, maybe a year and a little over and a half. But I wasn't doing dairy in general because I've never liked milk. So, and I always like eating healthy green foods in general. So I wasn't eating a lot of meat per se anyways. I was eating like chicken because, the whole fitness and all that stuff. But it wasn't because I wanted to or I enjoyed it. And so when we did the transition, like I said, it felt like coming back home. It was like, wow, this makes so much sense. And there was so much more information on the subject. And maybe because I was older as well, but also just going to the grocery store. I could go to any grocery store. I remember when I was in high school, I would have to go to like Trader Joe's to get the specific vegan, food as opposed to just any grocery store. Now I buy hot dogs at Walmart for him, the vegan hot dogs. It's so easy now. It's so freaking easy that it just makes sense. It's common sense to just do it.
It is. And that's a very good point to make, though. I mean, just how much it's evolved. I'm sure that's super interesting for you, actually, just because you were and then you weren't and you came back because like you said, the options weren't there. The resources really weren't there. I mean, like now we have Netflix and 80 documentaries to just, spill out all the info. But I mean, yeah, I mean, what were some of the biggest resources for you, like looking back whenever you made that decision in high school?
When I made that decision was having that holistic doctor. He was an older gentleman and he was in great shape. I mean, great health. He was, I would say 60s, 70s probably. And he's, from what I hear, he's still alive. And he was just, it was such an inspiration because I'd always been kind of a health freak anyways, like in healthy food. But seeing him, I wanted that for my future. And then seeing my mom having to go through health issues and not being the healthiest of people, it was really inspirational for me to, it was like a seed that was planted at that stage, for me to continue on this health journey. And so he was a resource for me. And he recommended a lot of raw foods. He recommended a lot of more natural things. And that's kind of how I did my research back then.
That's cool. Since your family did like convert back, were they still supportive whenever you decided to like stay vegan, but then whenever you turn vegan again, do you know what I mean? Like, did they kind of remember the benefits and they were still cool with that?
Yeah. I've always kind of been like the artsy, like weird girl, modern hippie into really random stuff. So my family is used to it. They're like, oh, that's just Claudia. So they were used to me going, they're like, yep, she's bringing her own food or she's doing her own thing. So I've always been into it. So they have been supportive, which is a really interesting story is when my mom converted back to a traditional diet, she actually got cancer again.
Wow.
And it was interesting to see that. And then she went healthy again. And, I think it's just habits and I don't know what it is. She doesn't follow a vegan diet now, but she knows that the resources are there if she wanted to. So it's very interesting to see how, as human beings, we really have to have the strength and the willpower to make those health decisions for ourselves,
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more with that. And I mean, once you decided to go vegan again with David, I mean, did you just feel that impact right away? I know that you lost what, like it was like 40 pounds right after you had your son, right?
Yeah, so since I've had my son, I've lost a total of 40 pounds. I started after, it's so funny because after I had my son and I got the go ahead from my doctor to start working out, I couldn't even lift 5 pounds. I couldn't bicep curl 5 pounds. And I was like, no, because I was lifting, somewhat before. And so I lost a bunch of weight, but I was still what you consider kind of skinny fat. And then my husband decided to hire Tori Washington. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's a vegan bodybuilder.
He is a beast.
Yes, he is. I mean, his knowledge is just above and beyond. Like, and so I told Hubby, I was like, I want to join you because I still couldn't lose that extra baby fat. Visually I was thin, but I was flabby. I wasn't tight like I wanted to be. So we hired him, and at this point we were already vegan. And he gave me a great plan, great nutrition. He gave me macros, and I just ate what I wanted within those macros. And then my body reacted really fast. I mean, I have some before and after pictures of my back on my Instagram page. And just within a period of, I want to say 3 months, the transformation was amazing. And I got addicted after that. I was addicted. I decided my hubby was the one that was going to compete, not me. I just wanted to get back in shape. And I ended up competing. I ended up placing third in my second competition, which was really crazy because
awesome.
It was inspirational, as a mom. And when you have a kid, you invest so much in them. When we had our son, I went back to doing what I was doing, which was impersonating Lady Gaga. And we realized it just wasn't working with our schedule. He was starting in his career. And so we decided for me to support him in his career, which would benefit our family, I would just quit what I was doing and focus on my son. So I became a stay-home mom. And I got lost and all that. You kind of lose yourself as a mom. You want to do everything. And that's when I gained a little extra more weight. And that's really where the second journey of health started for me, besides the one with my mom, And so fitness was a way for me to find myself again and gain that confidence again within myself. Not just the physical body, because that's amazing. But there's something about eating healthy, knowing that you're doing it for the environment, for the animals, and being back in shape that really builds you up inside,
Yeah, and I really want to highlight what you just said, Claudia, about you kind of get lost in that mom life, because I know that there are a lot of moms that listen to this. And listen, guys, it is not selfish for you guys to take time to go to the gym or take a little extra time to meal prep for yourself. Like, that is not selfish. If you take that time or like that morning time to really get your mind right, you're going to be better for your kids and you're going to be better for your entire family. So if you're kind of stuck in that place, whereas I don't want to take an hour away from my kids, like you're going to have better quality time with your family. In this case, quality is better than quantity. Like if you are exhausted and like just super fatigued and kind of cranky, like that's not the version of you that they want. So I love that you highlighted that, Claudia, because I know that you understand that too. It makes such a huge difference.
No, thank you, Casey. I agree 100% with what you said, and what you said about where you kind of feel guilty taking time off. I had that for a while, but then I
Yeah.
realized I have to be a better me for a better him. And that's how it becomes in everything we do. We have to be better us for a better family, for a better community, for a better world. But it really starts at home, and finding creative ways as a mom. And I know this isn't really a mom talk, it's more plant-based, but what I found worked for me was, like, if I signed him up at a rec center, that's what I do now. He takes gymnastics, and when he's there, they have a gym in the same building, so I work out. I do my workout while he's in there. Little tips and tricks that you can do. He naps every day, so when I first started, when he would nap, I would work out. I would find things to do to adjust so that I didn't feel I was taken away from him. And once I started doing that, I started realizing I'm happier now, which makes me a happier parent for him.
Absolutely. No, for sure. And real quick, this is very
Yeah.
off topic, but you slid it in there so sneaky about being a Lady Gaga impersonator that I don't think we can properly move past that before we talk more about how that happened, because that's amazing.
I think that was one of the it's one of the probably the best jobs I've had. I really enjoyed it. It was really random. Funny story, I actually had no idea who she was when I applied. So I applied for this impersonating job on the Strip, and I went on like my social media back then. I only had Facebook, and I was like, oh, it's just family and friends. I'm like, guys, I want to do this. Who do you guys recommend I should be at? With between Christina Aguilera, Madonna. And then I had somebody had mentioned Lady Gaga. I'm like, oh, or Lady Gaga, and I was like, I had no idea who she was. I was researching her, and then I contacted the company that wanted me to audition, and they needed a Lady Gaga. They already had a Madonna and a Christina, so I went audition, and yeah, I got the job, and it was one of the most amazing things ever. I got to perform nightly. I got to dress up like her. That job also really helped with building, not caring what people think. I was already one that didn't care, but it took it to another level because I had to be her when I was on stage. I had to put on that persona, and it was amazing because she's such a strong person yet vulnerable at the same time. You know what I mean?
Right. Did you get to meet her yet?
No, I haven't. But another funny story is when I was in LA, because I moved to LA for a little while to do the whole artist thing. I was working as an esthetician in a high-end spa that was inside like an apartment complex, and she walked by, and somebody pointed, is like, oh, that's Lady Gaga. I'm like, oh, I have no idea who that is. And shortly after that, I moved back home. And so when I started impersonating her, I thought that was really funny.
That's hilarious.
I thought that was interesting.
That definitely is a good story. No, that's amazing. I love that. And so whenever sorry, I'll take you back. Sorry, I had to take you on that tangent for a second. I had to know for myself. No, so whenever you said you started making your changes, and before you started doing the bikini competitions, you said whenever you started to kind of implement your training in with Tori, and like what were maybe some of the changes that you made that made a huge difference for you? Like maybe it was a difference in like eating certain food. Like was there something that you noticed that once you changed it, you started seeing a lot better results?
I would say just because he had a guideline for me, it was educating myself and realizing how much food I actually needed to eat, and the kinds of foods, not the kinds of foods, but the macros, meaning how many carbs, fats, and protein. And every show, some things get tapered off, some things get increased, some things get decreased, like your water intake goes up as you get closer to the show. I remember the week of the competition, he would have me drink about 2 gallons of water a day. And I learned that's because it depletes your body the day of competition. You don't drink water, the night before until you look more shredded. And so it's the little tips and tricks. And my biggest thing is when I tell people, find your relationship with food and get educated. Like the biggest thing that helped me was MyFitnessPal or any kind of app that you can track. Sometimes I think we eat not realizing that maybe we're eating way too much fat and not enough carbs. You know what I mean? And so we think we're eating quote unquote healthy, but realistically, we're not getting in what our body needs for the body we want. Not everyone wants to compete, which I get, but I feel like the more educated you are, and if you can build a relationship with food and really see it, even if you just count for a week, you'll have that knowledge. So now I don't count all the time. I do enjoy counting. I'm a nerd like that. I love, like, even when I was doing the raw thing, I was still counting, even if I ate stuff that I didn't count. It just because I enjoy it, and you really realize, oh, so this apple has this much carbs, but it has 0 fat. So I could eat this apple that's going to fill me up, or this bar that isn't really going to fill me up. It has like 20 grams of fat. Which one's going to
Right.
be better for me, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, because like you said, like it doesn't obviously if you are doing bodybuilding and shows and things like that, you have to be super like you have to track that stuff right and be like super on top of it. But if you're just the average person just trying to live healthier, maybe trying to lose a few pounds or just get into better shape, like Claudia said, like maybe it's just a few days or for a week. Like you don't have to become obsessive with I think people are afraid they're gonna become like an obsession or like another type of addiction. But if it's just like a few days, it's just that awareness, like you were saying. It's once you get an awareness for what you're putting into your body and it's like when you first start your wellness journey to begin with and you first learn how to read a label, right? All of
Yeah.
that stuff is so new, and then you start to look at other labels and you're like, what have I been eating? It's just like that same kind of concept.
No, it really is. And it's like anything you learn in life. It's like when you follow a recipe, you follow, you find a recipe and you start following it to the T. And the first time you do it, it might take you 2 hours to do it, even though it tells you it's 30 minutes. But the more often
I'm
you do
definitely
it,
that person.
yeah, me too. Like Pinterest is awesome, but sometimes I'm like, Pinterest, you said this is going to take me 45 minutes and it's been 2 hours now.
Right.
You do it the first time because you don't know, and you don't know that you know. But then you do it and now you know. And once you know that you know, things become easier and you can apply that knowledge and not have to take that much time to do it, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what do you think was the biggest struggle for you doing the competitions? Because it definitely is a lot of dedication that you put in for that.
For me, it was the posing. The diet and the workouts were really fun. I enjoyed it a lot. I had a lot of fun being creative with the meals and finding ways to fit like things that I was craving within my macros. For me, it was the posing. I had to work more on my posing, and it wasn't so much that it was stage fright because I had stage experience. It was getting the right moves and being more fluid with it. So that's something that I'm working on right now is being more fluid with the moves and because there's certain positions that they want and certain angles and finding out which angle, because it's all about angles. I mean, everyone takes selfies and it's all about the angle. The right angle makes you look good, the bad, and so same thing with posing for bikini. The right angle makes you look like what they're looking for, and the wrong angle. So it was coming into the knowledge of knowing that about my body.
No, that's cool. No, that's interesting. I mean, as regards to like learning what you've learned and applying it to your family, I mean, obviously that's incredible. You've always had that kind of support from your family, and now, David's on board, and I know your son is. So I mean, he's younger, but I know that he eats super well too. So for maybe families or moms that are listening right now, like what kind of advice would you give them for just helping with their kids, helping implement it into their homes? Because people get kind of scared because they think it's going to be super hard, but it doesn't have to be.
No, it's actually really easy, and it goes back to monkey see, monkey do. The biggest thing, as you know, as a mom, that I learned right away, monkey see, monkey do. If I'm going to tell him something and he does it, then I expect myself to follow through and do it. Same thing with food habits. He's going to eat what I'm eating. He's very, very interesting. He out of nowhere, randomly, he started telling people he was vegan, which we never taught him that. It was very. He would tell people, he was vegan, and then he would ask now he asks people if they offer him food, is it vegan? And if it's not vegan, he won't eat it. And he learned all that from osmosis. Like we never told him. What I started telling him was we don't eat cow's milk. So we don't eat cow's milk. Or if I would check if he wanted candy or something, he would tell me, can I have this? I'm like, oh, I don't know. But then if they had like, dairy, I'd say, oh, it has cow's milk, so we don't eat it. But I'll find you the equivalent that doesn't have cow's milk. So I always make an effort to find the exact equivalent of what he wants in a vegan version. So that way he feels like he can have whatever he wants. And then, so that's what I would suggest to parents, like read labels, even if, hey, oh, we don't eat this. We don't eat this. But here's another version of what you can eat. In school, every time they have food events like parties or things, I always find out what they're going to have, and I make it myself. I usually I like making it from scratch. I just feel it tastes better. But if you're a busy parent or you don't have the time, you can always buy a vegan version. If somebody's having a birthday party, ask the mom, hey, what are you bringing? Oh, you're bringing cupcakes. Are they chocolate? Are they vanilla? So that way you bring one for your child, and they'll feel included because they don't know the difference,
Absolutely. Yep. And we've done a similar thing, like my daughter's 3, and it was actually kind of funny the other day because like even though they're that small, like they're so smart. Like they pick up on things. So it blows my mind because like she was playing with some friends the other day, and like somebody else was watching her, I wasn't. And then whenever I came back, they were like, it was funny because I guess they had like the dairy, like goldfish, right? Like the dairy. And they were like, yeah, and Maddox told us like she couldn't have those because like usually if things are orange like that, I know that there's usually cheese in it or milk or something like that. So every time that happens, I'll be like, oh no, we can't have those, but we find her an alternative. But she was telling them, no, I can't have that because there's cheese in it. And she didn't even know what it was. She just was used to like seeing like maybe like a cheese in it, and I would tell her that over and over, and she just kind of like knows. So she's telling them like, oh no, I can't have that. There's cheese in it. It's like she's 3. Like that
That's
blows my
amazing.
mind.
But
Yes,
but isn't that amazing that you're instilling this habit in her that's gonna last? That's the seed you planted, and it's gonna help her for the rest of her life, and she's gonna be so grateful to you for doing that. You know?
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's incredible, and I know you've seen it with your son too, just how much it just affects him in a positive way. And yeah, it blows my mind. I love it, and I love that, especially that you're really helping him learn where food comes from through gardening. And honestly, I'm gonna need you to like you're gonna need to just text me and keep me accountable with like learning more about gardening, because I really want to, because it's something I haven't really implemented enough for myself. But I mean, you're doing amazing work over there, and especially in your community. So, do you want to talk about like your just journey as far as just with gardening and how you're really implementing what you've learned in your community right now?
Yeah, and yeah, I'll definitely help you with the I'm very passionate about gardening. It kind
Awesome.
of became a little of an obsession. Let's just say that I've gone like I want to say 20 more than 24 hours without sleep because I was gardening. I put little guy to sleep at night, and I was like, "Oh, I'll be right back. I'm just gonna go water some plants or do something." And next thing I know, sun's rising. He wakes up, and I can't fall asleep because he's awake, so I don't get to fall asleep till that night. And that was like, wow, 36 hours without sleep, awesome. But you're in the garden. I get in the zone. It's so peaceful. It's so connected to nature. It's so grounding. It's been one of those things. Every time I'm there, I learn more and more about myself, about life, about the environment, about the community, about us as human beings. You see a plant, it has its seed, and one little seed you plant, and then that plant produces more and more seeds. You start realizing there is so much abundance and so much in this universe, and that we're all connected. It's all the same cycle. We're all connected. And when you start knowing that, you start getting a closer relationship with your food. You start appreciating food for what it is, and also valuing the fact that we have so much, and we really do, and also the energy about food. And
Absolutely.
yeah, it really is. And I what was the question again? I got
Oh no, I
distracted
was gonna
talking
say,
about gardening.
oh no, you're good. No, it is. I mean, it's definitely a beautiful thing, and just yeah, I mean, like, I'm sure it makes you. Sorry, this isn't the question, but I'm sure it blows your mind whenever you grow so much food, and then you go to the store and you're like, how is it this expensive? Because I
Yeah.
have so much in the garden too. So that's another
Yes.
benefit if you're trying to like live this way on a budget. If you have the ability to make a garden even small, it's gonna save you a lot of money too.
It will save you. Well, I always tell people this is kind of my little go-to line. I say you can spend dollars or pennies if you have your own garden. Dollars at the store or pennies in your garden. It really is very inexpensive to grow your own. And how I started was just as a hobby. Actually, like it's interesting. When I was a kid, is one of the things I really loved. And I just, we get older, we forget about the things we love. We do what society tells us. And I picked it up again right before I was pregnant with my son as a just little hobby, and really got into it. Was pregnant with him, and then had him, became a stay-at-home mom, and was just got really into gardening. Started growing a lot of stuff in my our home, and just was posting pictures on Instagram. And I met somebody here, and she got me into this local garden, and that's when I to help volunteer work at this local garden, and that's for a few, because they saw everything I was doing, and they wanted to grow their own stuff better than what they were doing. And so I volunteered, and that's when I realized, oh, I could make this into something, turn it into something. And so that's when I started. I created a second garden page, and then from that, I got approached by somebody that was doing what's called the 5x5 dinner here. So what they do is they get 5 chefs, 5 gardeners, and 5 restaurants to create meals. So as growers, we grow the food for them. The chefs make the food. It's all plant-based food. They sell tickets, and then all that money, the profits from that event, go to a nonprofit organization here in Vegas that puts gardens in elementary schools and teaches kids about food and healthy eating habits. And so I
Oh,
was
so
fortunate
cool.
enough. Yeah, I was fortunate enough to be a part of that. When I did it that year, the year prior to that, I volunteered to help out, and then the year I did it, there were only 2 gardeners, 2 of us, and an herbalist. And so at that point, I had a really small backyard garden. And after doing that, I loved the idea of giving back, especially when a garden produces so much. I mean, I was giving Swiss chard left and right to neighbors and family because I had so much that we couldn't finish. And so after doing that event, through that, I was on a lot of news media. I got to get interviewed through the news, local news. I did like a little gardening show for another media, And then I also got approached by our local Star Nursery, a local garden center, to write for their article, to write for their what is it, quarterly magazine they have out. So I did that. My garden was featured there. And after that, I told hubby I wanted to turn this into a bigger thing. And that's when we decided to sell the house and we bought an acre lot. So that's kind of where we are right now. We have an acre lot that I'm going to do about a quarter of the lot, just garden. And I just want to give back to the community more than anything. I want to give back. I've made that conscious decision that 10% of whatever I make, I want to give back to the community, whether it's in the form of what I grow, whether it's in the form of money. And I want to invest that donated money into programs that teach kids about gardening and healthy habits.
Oh, I love all of that so much. And like, so you're in the very beginning stages then of making that garden on that acre. So you guys just got there, right?
Yeah, so we bought the acre this last summer. So I think I want to say around August, we bought the land, yes.
Gotcha. How's it going so far?
It's going great. It's going really good. A few little things here and there that we need to work with the city because, they have rules and regulations. So we're focusing on, right now we have the water well installed. So the next thing is doing our due diligence to get power to the property because once we can't pump the water well or we can't get the water well to work until we get power. So once we get power and get all that done, I'm going to go hardcore on the garden. And I've been working on the layouts, just different things with how I'm going to design it, what I'm going to do with it, all of that.
That's awesome. What are some of the rules and regulations you're kind of having to have to deal with that? Is it mainly because of water, just being in the desert?
Not so much the rules and regulations for the garden, but for the house, because we're actually going to build our house on the land and then have the garden in the very back. And so to get power, we need to have permits to build the house. And so we haven't submitted the paperwork to build the house yet. But as soon as we submit the paperwork, we're going to, and once we get the permits to go ahead, they'll put temporary power on our property, and then I'll be able to power up the pump to go with it.
Gotcha. No, that's awesome. Are there certain, like I said, I don't know enough about gardening. I probably should. But being in, Vegas, you're in the desert. Is that a struggle with growing certain plants, or can you make it work just with the right pumps and systems?
It's amazing. I think that's probably why it kind of took off on its own because people were surprised I was growing so much in quote unquote the desert. It's really funny because I never thought you couldn't. I just always, I can do it. I just got to find a way. The biggest thing I found was your soil. If you have $100 on your budget, invest $99 into your soil. And when I say invest, I don't necessarily mean buy soil. I mean composting. The first step you want to do, if you say you want to start a garden and you have no idea where to start, in the meantime, while you're doing your research, because you might want wood beds, you might want block beds, you might want something elaborate, or might want something simple. But the first and foremost step, I tell people, start composting your food scraps. Because once you compost your food scraps, it goes back to the whole cycle of life. You're putting nutrients back into the soil. So no matter how good of a soil you buy in a store, you're buying back soil. Microbes, all the living organisms, they can't survive. They can't really survive in a closed environment like those bags you buy at the store. So if you start composting, that's going to give you a head start that you're going to have extremely great nutrients to add to your soil that will give you great food as the end result, as opposed to using, I'm an organic gardener. I highly believe in organic gardening. And so I don't use any of the additives that people use. I feel that depletes the soil and it isn't working with the natural environment of how gardening or just nature works. You compost your food scrap, you feed it to your soil, you add some composting worms in there. The worms eat all the food scraps. The food scraps feed the plants. The worms, their poop is like the best natural fertilizer you can have. Even we had bunnies for a while. So if you have bunnies or anything like that, you save their poop and put it in the garden. It's a great way to add natural fertilizers to your garden.
That's amazing. No, I love that tip. And as far as composting, can you compost literally any food, or do you keep it to strictly raw fruits, veggies? How do you decide what you compost?
I compost everything because I do a method called bokashi composting. When I first started composting, I did the outdoor method, and I found that it took too long, and it had to be a certain size, 3 by 3 feet wide by 3 feet tall, and it had to be full before the heating process would even take a hold. And you can't do oils, you can't do certain things, But with bokashi composting, what it is, it's fermented either wheat bran or something. They usually use wheat bran or rice. Think of probiotics for humans, but for plants. So what this does, it's a little powder that you have a container. You put your food scraps, you sprinkle the powder, food scraps powder, food scraps powder. You keep doing that lasagna layer. Once it's full, you cover it, and what it does, it ferments the food inside. And at the same time, it's adding a lot of microbes. And a lot of people actually don't know this. even if you buy food at the grocery store that's not organic, if you compost it, it can still, the traditional method, it can still carry some of those pesticides because sometimes it might not get to the high heat that it needs to kill those pesticides. Where bokashi actually changes the DNA structure of the food, so it actually removes all of those toxins. And once you have that fermented food, because it still looks like food, it's just fermented and it has a little sour kind of smell to it. You mix that into your soil, and 2 weeks after that, you can plant. So you can literally compost. Like we're in an apartment right now, and I've been composting our food scraps. You don't need that much space, and you can compost. Once that bucket's full, you leave it full for 2 weeks. It drains liquid on the bottom. The liquid that you have on the bottom, you can dilute it into water and spray your plants as a natural fertilizer. You can also put it down the drains to unclog drains and things like that. I usually use it in the garden, but once it's fermenting for 2 weeks, that's all you need. And then you mix it with soil for 2 weeks. You wait for it to, because you can't plant right away because it's a little acidic. So you wait 2 weeks and then you start planting. And when I started using that method, I got to tell you, girl, like my plants were taking off. Like everything in the garden was huge, was green, it was so amazing. And the worms eat it. Like the composting worms eat that as well. So it's one of those things where it's just mind blowing how nature works, you know?
It really is. I mean, all of that just blew my mind. So I'm going to be hitting you up for all the for all the information. I think that's incredible. And what I'm excited about, because I'm pretty sure David mentioned that you guys are really going to start YouTubing a lot of like things like this, like tips and just in the garden, just so you can really educate even more people. So is that the game plan?
Oh yes, I'm so excited. So now that his career is going off, and I found a really big passion with gardening, he's gonna help me get my stuff going. So yes, as soon as we get the water and everything situated, my bed's going, I'm gonna start. I want to do something where I can teach the basics to people, but also everyday life gardening and how easy it is to have your garden. You know, a lot of people tell me, oh, I don't have a green thumb, or I don't know how to do this, and it's not us, it's not me, it's nature. And once you know the rules and you know that it's easy to follow it, and the formula is the same. Nature takes over. You know, you're just kind of helping and guiding. That's all you're doing.
That's awesome. When do you think the first videos are going to start rolling out?
Hopefully soon. Hopefully soon. I'm hoping we'll start filming probably, I'm thinking June. We'll start filming and then start. I want to film maybe 10 videos edited, done, because I'll edit them myself. I went to school for film, and so I know how to edit and all that stuff.
Awesome.
So I want to have at least 10 videos ready to go. And then that way I have them as I'm filming, I have backups. So I want to put out a video every week, you know.
That's cool. Well, keep me posted once you launch that so I can share that on my end, because I know people want to go check that out for sure.
Thank you.
We should set up too. We'll get and plan it when we jump off. But like once you do get that going too, like let's do an IG live. That way you can just like walk around and show people like the process, because that would be really fun.
Yeah, I would love to do that. That'd be awesome.
Cool. Yeah, no, I love that. And so, I mean, what do you, I know we just talked about a bunch of stuff you're going to be doing with the garden and everything, but is there anything else happening in the future that you just want to put out there and share that you're working on? Anything that you want to just share?
I would say balancing life and taking it easy, guys. Like just realizing, asking ourselves what we want and getting to the core of why we want it. And realizing, like with this whole garden situation, it's taken a little longer than we expected. And I could have gone two routes with it. I could have been really upset, or I could find the positivity in it, and asking myself, why do I want it? What's the real reason? And when you come to anything that you really want, at the end of the day, it's because we want to be happy. We really think that this thing, person, relationship, job, career, body, whatever it is, it's going to make you happy. And if you can just for a second decide that, hey, I can be happy no matter what's going on externally, then you end up enjoying the journey. I've learned, just because I've done a lot of self-discovery, I'm into big law of attraction, mind stuff, all that stuff. I've learned that we're going to get there. You put your mind to something, you're going to get there no matter what. But the question is, how are you going to get there? Are you going to get there complaining? Are you going to get there just, all the negative emotions you can think about? Or are you going to get there enjoying every single moment, enjoying every step? Because that high you get when you accomplish something only lasts so long, because then you want something more. And you're always going to be wanting more. And if you realize I'm always going to be wanting more, but this journey is 90% of it, let me enjoy this journey,
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree with you more. I love that. And, Claudia, what is the best way for people to follow you on social media? That way they can keep up with all of your awesome work. If you ever jump on there as Lady Gaga, they can be surprised.
I did recently post like a little flashback Friday or a little throwback, because I was going through my pictures. I'm like, oh, Every time I think of that job, I just so many good memories, and it just gives me like the little butterflies, and my heart just feels it was an amazing experience. They can find my garden at the Vixen Garden on Instagram. And then as far as me, my Instagram handle for now, and unless I change it in the future, is Vegas Veggie Vixen.
Awesome. And you could potentially be checking in on her training if she does the show in Florida, which I would love for her and David to do so they can come hang out with me. That would be great.
That would be fun. That would be really fun.
That would be awesome. And Claudia, you probably already answered this in your last statement because it was amazing, but closing question that I ask every guest, but if you just had one piece of advice for the audience, maybe it's something that's your biggest takeaway on your journey so far, but if you just had one piece of advice to give, what would it be? And if it's what you just said, we can just ditto that.
I would say love yourself.
Yeah.
Know thyself, love thyself, and then you can be everything to your family, your community, and the world once you love yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Claudia, thank you so much for taking time to come on. I loved having you. I think the work that both you and David are doing is just incredible. So just thank you so much. And thanks for all the education you're going to be putting out there with the gardening. I love it. And appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Casey, for having me. Appreciate you as well.
Thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you loved my conversation with Claudia. She's doing so much positive work, so be sure to give her a follow on social media to keep up with everything that she's been working on. You can find her social media links that we talked about in the episode in the show notes, but you can also find them on my website as well at drcaseyjohnson.com. That's drkaseyjohnson.com. Click on the Listen tab. Then from there, you'll be able to see all of the past guests that have come on the Unlock Wellness podcast, read a little bit about each guest, and be able to click on their social media links, websites, all of that. So all of Claudia's information can be found on my site as well. If you guys loved today's episode with Claudia, be sure to jump onto iTunes, subscribe, and write a review. It really helps me out a lot, and I really appreciate all of the feedback and support. Thank you guys so much again for tuning into today's episode. I hope you loved it. I hope it inspires you. And most importantly, I hope you take action.